Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Asian markets, they're more or less mixed as we speak, edged higher after a mixed session on Wall Street.
Even though it doesn't import nearly as much from the U.S. as the U.S. imports from China, there's plenty of optionality to the Chinese strategy.
Not crossing 11,200 by a smidge, but by a giant stride. So it's 11,230 on the index and the Sensex as well, 37,200.
The first signs of an economic upturn indicated by earnings going up might be one of the reasons.
In the last 3 or 4 years, Alaris has invested about $900 million, chiefly in the space of aerospace and automotive.
Nifty is up 84 points, the Sensex is up 332 points. And for the week, by the way, the market is on track for a 2% plus kind of a gain.
1 to 2% was the growth that the company posted on its cigarette volume business.
All in all, I think we are fairly optimistic about the way the biologics business is going to play out for the rest of this fiscal.
The market's up and about 84 points on the Nifty. 11,251 is where we stand at this point in time.
Well, what a day it's been. If follow-up was required, the bulls have delivered just that and more. Look at that chart. It's been so rock steady. There's been no let-up, no volatility. You can't complain about participation today because not just the large cap rally is more broad-based. There's a good participation from mid-caps. And we've had a flurry of very interesting and some very good mid-cap earnings as well today. That's been the day so far. You're joining us on Closing Bell. I'm Surbhi Upadhyay. And with me is Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Surbhi. Yes, looking very good. In fact, just look at the cash market volumes as well. Almost 30,000 crores. That says a lot about participation, right? And even if you look at, the Nifty Junior, the market breadth, the participation is quite broad-based. Of course, we still haven't got numbers from the likes of ICICI Bank or Reliance Industries, so that will also be a very strong sentiment indicator. But for now, the market is clearly in the grip of the bulls. Let's tell you what's lined up on the show for the next 1 hour. It promises to be a very interesting day, especially for the bulls. The going has been good. We discuss earnings, markets, and the top sectors to watch out for with Vaibhav Sanghvi of Avendus Capital Alternate Strategies.
Among other things, telecom stocks have been in focus. Bharti Airtel is holding up in positive territory after its numbers. Idea Cellular in focus as they've got the approval for the merger with Vodafone. And it's going to be a lot about Reliance Jio this evening. So we discuss telecom and, of course, markets with Gautam Trivedi of Nepean Capital.
And we await numbers from the big boy Reliance and banking major ICICI and Bank of Baroda. All that and more with SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com, Dipan Mehta and Sampath Reddy of Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance.
And as always, we kick things off with some trading ideas coming your way from Ashwini Gujral and Mitesh Thakkar for the last 1 hour of trade. In fact, let's get started then with Ashwini and Mitesh. Good afternoon to both you gentlemen. Thanks for joining in. Ashwini, your thoughts? It's been quite emphatic. It's been quite strong. Unless we get some kind of, last hour weekend jitters or Friday jitters in, it's been pretty solid so far. So how do you view the day and, of course, the trading ideas?
See, I don't believe you will get jitters because now long positions are getting added. So the Nifty is basically at a premium of 27 points. So that's a fairly strong market. What I would want in the last hour is that ICICI Bank rallies a bit and the Bank Nifty hits a fresh high because that's what I am positioning for at least. In an expansionary phase, markets tend to close at the highs of the day. I think Bank Nifty is due for that sort of a closing for another day because all through hardly 2 banks have been negative and the rest of the banks have actually built on yesterday's gains. So that way, today there's been good rotation. Even the all-time high stocks, they have come back. So a market that is rotating around is generally a stronger market. That wasn't visible till yesterday. So that way, last hour, I think I would still buy the Bank Nifty. My sense is once the momentum is with the market, the results also, tend to come out in a fashion which only accentuates the trend. So that way, possibly ICICI Bank could, go into the results at a high. Individual stocks, Yes Bank has again found support at lower levels and has bounced back from there. So that's a buy with a stop of 365. target of 382. There may not be incremental downside here. Federal Bank is a buy with a stop of 89, target of 97. And Tata Motors is also seeing some short covering, so that's a buy with a stop of 265, target of 279.
Oh yes, Tata Motors is now up almost about 4% in fact, big volumes there. It comes out with its numbers next week on the 31st. So ahead of that, the numbers are expected to be weak this time around. No two ways about that. But the stock has fallen a whole lot, down 40% this year. Mitesh Thakkar is also with us. Mitesh, today we're getting a lot of participation from the financials. The bank Nifty is up almost 0.7%, and ICICI Bank, Axis Bank are all big gainers. Would you trade any of them, especially ICICI Bank, ahead of the numbers? And what would you do on the index itself?
Yeah, in fact, I like most of the banks. We've been recommending many of the banks. I do want to trade ICICI Bank, but if you look at the last 7 days of price movement, it's run up from 260 to about 295 without a red day or a negative closing. So maybe on a 8-9 point kind of dip is the best entry point. I think 280 is my stop loss level. So I would want to prefer it around 286, 287 in case I get it. Otherwise, there are a lot of other banks which are breaking out and could be good trading opportunities. Having said that, I think the stocks which I recommend right now are a buy on Godrej Industries. It's moved up slightly. Try to buy it around 640 with a stop at 628 for targets of 675. And Chola Finance is a sell with a stop at 1510 for targets of 1430.
Okay, so lots of ideas coming in, many of them on the buy side today. The market's really on a tear, 11,271, and it's just up and away. It's a whole century on the index. And in terms of movers and shakers, Tech Mahindra is now beginning to take flight. Stocks running to the highs of the day, so lots of buying coming in over there. Metal stocks anyway have been quite good. Tata Steel is putting on some more weight as well. So these are some of the key names that are moving to the higher side of the screen now. We have Mr. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com joining in, and as well as we have Dipan Mehta, member of both the exchanges, with us. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining in. Mr. Tulsian, I first want to start off with, a couple of the earnings reactions that have been, very smart on the upside. Biocon has been quite a story today. There's also been Westlife, where I think the same store sales growth of 24%, that's really enthused the street. Which are the numbers that stood out for you? And maybe in case you have a view on these two specifically, whether this kind of upside on Biocon can be sustained.
See, I think Biocon numbers were not looking to be that great, which justified the shares to move up by 6-7% this morning. But maybe because it has been ruling at a lower end, because this is what I've been saying for a while, that the stocks which are ruling at a lower end of the valuation range or maybe trading range, and if you have even a small respite or maybe small cheer from on the result front, that stock is seen moving up quite high, and that is what is exactly happening with the Biocon also. Because if you see the Biocon, I think the high was 660, 670, and it was ruling at a level of about 580, 590, and it has moved up. But maybe an entry at 575, or maybe 580 makes it a good buy, because if you take a call going ahead, I think for next 3-4 quarters you have a good comfort on the earning growth, and that is what is giving you comfort to buy the stock at the level of 575, 580. Coming on Westlife, I think again the same store sales growth was expected, or similar on the lines of the Jubilant Food what we have seen. But if you take a call on the valuations, I think valuation is seen to be quite expensive for the stock, and maybe I don't know whether one should really be comfortable in going ahead and buying this stock at these valuations or not.
Okay, so that's on Westlife. By the way, JSW Energy is seeing a big boost right now post its numbers. So just look at that. It's up almost about 6% right now, JSW Energy. And it's, of course, recovering from the big hit it's seen this year. I mean, it's down 30% for the year. But post numbers, the stock has surged. The finance costs have gone down for the company. So that's actually boosted the bottom line for JSW Energy. Mr. Tulsian, good afternoon. I just wanted your thoughts on how to approach a stock like JSW Energy now, given the kind of movement we've seen. I mean, it's not done anything for investors this year, but post the numbers, would you expect further upsides?
See, if you take a YY call, then you are finding numbers to be a bit better. But if you take a QOQ call, the results were seen quite good, that because the Q4 was very bad. But taking all into consideration, I don't think that you have any kind of incentive to go for buying the JSW Energy in maybe considering these results. Though, as I said, that on a YOY basis, the PBT has been at 253 crore against 328 crores. But the PAT is seen to be static or maybe at the same level of 230 against 217. So that probably may be cheering the market, but I don't think that these prices will really sustain because numbers are nothing extremely great, and I won't advise buying the stock to have it in the portfolio.
Okay, well, let's get in deeper into the conversation as well. Afternoon, Deepan. Today, the leadership came in right from the morning from ITC, right? The numbers were very, very good. Stock is holding on to a 5% up move. Now, this is the classic question and the classic debate between valuation catch-up on an ITC versus its peers, like Lever, etc. So, would you be willing to back ITC now that it's at these 300 sort of levels?
No, I don't think so, and the results also are not that impressive for the street to have this kind of a reaction, at least according to our opinion. Clearly, I think they have got a large FMCG business which they've been trying to grow for decades, but it's just not gaining traction as far as bottom line is concerned. And a lot of profitability is still dependent on the tobacco business, which are 1.5%, 2% type of growth rates can be hardly encouraging from an investment perspective. So ITC remains purely a tobacco company according to us. And even going forward, I think 10% type of bottom line growth is not really something which investors should look at when there are so many choices in similar space, consumption oriented space, where many businesses are growing at 20 to 25%, 30% or so. So although valuation wise ITC may be cheap, I don't think that it merits a buy at these levels also. In fact, such rallies in ITC could be a good opportunity to exit out of ITC.
Okay, so use that opportunity to perhaps exit out of ITC. That's interesting. That still continues to be the big mover today, up about 5.5%. Dipan, hi, afternoon. We were just chatting about a whole host of numbers that came in the broader markets. The one that stood out really was Biocon today. It's up almost 5%. The management commentary was very strong. How are you positioned on some of these names? I know pharma has not been your favorite, but Biocon has delivered, for long-term investors. Would you be optimistic here?
See, after several quarters of disappointment, we have one good quarter coming in through Biocon. And no doubt, I think the biologics opportunity is fantastic. But to an extent, I think that's already got priced into the stock price. It is at present one of the most expensive pharmaceutical company listed in India. And although growth prospects are great as far as the biologics business is concerned, there are major challenges in the other divisions where up till this quarter, they were facing flat to negative type of growth rates. And it's a complex company, Biocon, and there's a high degree of volatility in the earnings as well. So I think it's great for professional investors to look at Biocon, who track it on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, and are able to judge how the global sales of the biologics are going to shape out. But from I think a novice investor point of view, I think Biocon presents quite a challenge in terms of analyzing and understanding and then remaining invested for an extended period of time.
Lots of stocks moving around on earnings today. Another example, case in point, would be Philips Carbon Black. That's a no-brainer. We know what's happened to the commodities, and Carbon Black prices obviously helping perhaps them. 6% up on that stock. Very smart. I think 70% expansion in EBITDA. Smart improvement on the top line. Margins moving higher as well. So that stock's reacting. Mr. Tulsin, your thoughts on some of the financial results that we've seen today? For instance, Equitas. Cholamandalam is still reeling under pressure. I think, Chola's earnings were a little shy of expectations. So just your thoughts on some of the ones that we have already seen come through?
See, I don't find anything negative in Chola. In fact, this is what I've said in the morning also, except for the increase in the provisioning to about 80-90 crores. If you see it on a sequential basis, otherwise I think the numbers were very much seen in place. Maybe actually the Cholamandalam is seen to be a high beta stocks, which swiftly moves up and then swiftly corrects as well. But looking to the numbers, and I think that now the stock ruling at a lower level, maybe at a lower level by about 4-5% from the yesterday's close, I think is giving a buying opportunity with a medium-term view of maybe about a couple of months or so. Coming on Equitas, I think the company is seen on a returning on its earning trajectory, and I am not dissatisfied with the numbers. And I think that if the same momentum continues for Equitas, then again this stock can be looked into with a price target of maybe about 160 to be seen in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, looking pretty good for the market, Surbhi. Look at that move now. 350 points almost on the Sensex. You know, we thought yesterday was good. I mean, today is looking just so much better. I think it's going to be a good Friday for all the traders.
No, absolutely, Sonia. And I think today is going to be a day that really puts a lot of people at ease, especially people who are beginning to think long in the market, because we've had such a good follow-up, right? Yesterday was a bit of a flash in the pan. We had a recovery rally in the last half hour on closing bell. But today has been emphatic. Yeah. In fact, we should pull up some of the global markets because it's not a major global rally that's lifting our boat as well. This is a more an India-specific story today. Most of the European markets flattish. Some of the Asian markets have been rare. Look at that screen across Europe. Some of the Asian markets have actually ended negative. We are on our own trajectory, and this is a very strong afternoon of trade for sure.
And a strong week. You know, what's happened this week, I guess, is that there's been participation from new leaders. Yeah. So if you look at the top gainers this week, there's SBI, there is ICICI Bank, there are names like ITC. These are stocks that SBI, ICICI Bank have not really performed this year, but they've performed this week. So maybe we're getting some more leadership coming in. We'll take a short break. We'll get chatting with Vaibhav Sanghvi of Avendus Capital Alternate Strategies on the markets, as well as a sectoral call on the other side.
Look at the way stocks are flying around today. Right, the new kid on the block, recent listing. The numbers are coming tomorrow, on Monday, that is. 11% up on that stock. The anticipation is very, very solid from this one stock, this one company. So that's one case in point. Nagarjuna Fertilizers is up and about. Gati is moved higher, 5% higher. So there are a lot of stocks in the mid-cap arena which are looking good right now. We should get some of them up for you on the screen. Let's get some more trading ideas in as well. We have Sandeep Wagle joining in. Sandeep, good afternoon. What's on your list?
Afternoon, Surbhi. I would go with a buy in a Escort, stop loss of 900, target of 936, and a buy in a Real 2.
Oh, a buy in a Rel Infra, right? That was the second strategy, I guess, that Sandeep had. All right, Sandeep, thanks a lot for joining us. Well, we still have Dipan Mehta and Mr. SP Tulsian too. Mr. Tulsian, from the numbers that have come out so far, anything that you have spotted in the mid-cap space, in the small-cap space, earnings have looked good and it's a good buy for investors now?
Sonia, I think Philips Carbon has reported or has given good numbers. I'm just referring the numbers which have been released since the morning. I'm not referring the numbers which we have seen yesterday. And in fact, if you see, Philips Carbon has shown a good improvement in the PAT on a sequential basis from 74 crore to 98 crores. And I think the carbon story is going to remain quite positive going ahead. And maybe, one can look at the stock, because the view is seen positive, being maintained for the next 3 quarters as well.
Okay, so Philips Carbon is something that's on Mr. Tulsian's radar. Some more stocks on the move. The OMCs have actually had a decent day today as well. So IOC, for what it's worth, is still holding on to a 1.5% up move. HPCL is up about 2%. These are some of the names on the upside. And since we're talking oil and gas, can't not mention Reliance, approaching its numbers very, very smartly. 2% up on RIL as we speak. And what a journey it's been for the stock in the last 1 quarter. So Deepan, Reliance Industries, to you, given the lofty levels at which the stock is now sitting, would you advise a fresh entry?
And let's just wait and watch. The numbers are coming out today. I think we always see high degree of volatility when the numbers are out for every company, Reliance included. And Reliance by far is a complicated company with so many divisions, businesses and subsidiaries and varied industries. So I think too many variables at play over here. It's best to understand the results, let the price kind of settle down and then take a more informed decision.
Okay, but in general, Mr. Tulsian, we were discussing this with you earlier as well about Reliance Industries, the telecom and the retail vertical expected to do quite well. Do you think a lot of that is in the price? I mean, we've been talking about retail picking up since the last quarter too, and telecom, everyone knows the way RelJio's subscribers have been increasing. You think the good news is already in, or is there more to go?
See, Sonia, after seeing the Q4 numbers, I've said that, you are going to see lot of upside on the stock price. And I think maybe after Q4 numbers, we have seen the stock moving up by 22%. But the best part which I've been maintaining all along that, the company has seen the end of the capex cycle. In fact, if you see 2.5 lakh crore having invested by the company in Reliance Jio, which has been being made by last 5-6 years, will start yielding the results now. In fact, already we are seeing Reliance Jio in profit, on the PAT level. The Reliance Jio is reporting profits. Retail is again seen to be a very good story. $10 billion turnover, which we have seen for FY18. Obviously, with the stores additions or the floor area increasing, every quarter, we are going to see very good numbers. I won't be surprised to see the growth of about 30% on the top line for Reliance Retail, with EBITDA of closer to about 4,000 crore for FY18. So if you take all this into consideration, Petchem is again seen to be a very big kicker because of the refinery off-gas cracker plant having started, which is giving a good synergy. And if you really take all this into account, I don't think that even refinery, maybe for this quarter, you may see the fall of about 10-20 cents to the GRM, maybe at 10.8, 10.9, though we have been estimating it at $10.9 per barrel. So overall, in fact, now all the verticals have become quite healthy and quite rewarding going forward, and we are in fact taking an estimate of EPS closer to about 70 for FY90, or maybe things will really be quite rewarding for FY20 as well. So taking all this into consideration, I think the stock has become a very must-in portfolio kind of stocks. And even if you take on historic earnings, you have a P multiple of 15, and you can't say that the company is now merely a refiner or maybe a petchem company which carries a low P multiple. In fact, retail and telecom both carry a high P multiple. So if you take a blended multiple, also you need to have a multiple of maybe closer to about 18 or 20. So taking all this into consideration, increase in PAT and the P expansion will really make the stocks to remain invested for the next 18 to 24 months.
Mr. Tulsian, any thoughts on this recent listing rights Government of India undertaking? I think the issue made its debut somewhere around 190 thereabouts, and it's the last couple of weeks it's just gone higher and higher, and it's approaching the numbers very strongly as well. Any thoughts on this company?
See, I think, Surbhi, this has more to do with the momentum, the way we have seen in case of Mishra Dhatu Nigam also. I don't think that the fundamentals are so attractive, which deserves this kind of valuations, maybe for rights also. So maybe the momentum is seen in place, and we won't be surprised to see the share correcting, once the strong hands, exit from the stock. So we have not been keeping it on our buying list or buying recommendation.
Okay, stay on, gentlemen. We'll just come back to you for more. Bharti Airtel posted a decent set of numbers this time, both in the India as well as in the Africa business. Let's listen into what the management is saying at the conference call.
Pricing today. Not so long ago, our ARPU used to be about close to 200 rupees. So we've lost a very significant amount of ARPU. And if we were to go back to the same level of ARPU, then clearly our business would be double of where it is today. I think that, this is, at this point in time, there's obviously a very competitive context. My own sense is that pricing should start lifting in the next perhaps 6 months. So hopefully we'll start seeing some pricing movement. But this is obviously a function of competitive dynamic. On the content side, for now we've announced that till December we will give this content free with a bundle. One of the advantages of doing that is that our churn comes down when people pick the content along with the bundle. On broadband, I think the larger point you're making is right, which is India is a very, very underserved market on broadband. There clearly is a big opportunity to expand home broadband. What that number is, can be debated. But for us, last couple of years we've been rolling out about 500,000 to 600,000 home passes. This year our plan is to step it up to close to 2 million. We have begun this quarter in a slightly slower wicket because that's the way it takes time to ramp up getting clearances and permissions and all. So you'll see a step up in our broadband, home broadband investment during the course of this year.
Yeah. On the fixed broadband, number has been stable at 2 million. Even now, the plans which you're talking about are not really very aggressive plans. It's about modest improvements. Do you see an exponential growth possibility in this segment, or you think it's ROI is not there in the business?
No, I think that this is a business that unlike mobile, it's not a business based on a cloud that you provide across the country and than the millions of customers that you can acquire. This is a home by home, street by street, office by office type of business. Typically what you find is, if you look at our history over the last decade, you will find utilizations of anywhere between 40 and 45, maybe 48%. It takes some time to actually get utilization going, simply because you're going into new buildings, into new homes. Some of those may not be occupied. Then gradually the occupation begins to come in. So you see this sort of playing out over a period of time. And our focus right now is to really go into more of high rises, and in very, very important cities where we believe there's a lot of affluence, then even on a selective basis, even going into flat bed geographies.
Understood. That's it from my side. Thanks, Gopal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wood. The next question comes from Mr. Manish Adukia from Goldman Sachs, Mumbai. Mr. Adukia, you may ask your question now.
Yes, hi, and good afternoon, and thank you for taking my questions. I have two questions. First one is just a follow-up to the comment that you made in the earlier question. You mentioned that, of course, depending on competitive intensity, pricing could potentially go up in the next 6 months. I wanted to check, in your opinion, what would need to change for the industry over the next 6 months for pricing to actually go up? That's question one. Question number two is on your net debt to EBITDA, which is about 3.7 times as of last quarter. While we understand that you've said you could sell some of the non-core assets, etc., but they all look like they'll be sometime in 2019. Given your elevated capex right now, is there anything you're exploring for more immediate term deleveraging, or are you comfortable with your balance sheet at this point in time? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take the second one before Gopal reverts on the pricing issue. On net debt EBITDA, like I said, it's up from about 3.25 to about 3.6. Part of the reason is because we had operational FCF shortfall due to the capex in this quarter, which was higher. Part of it was Forex, part of it was Telenor. So while 3.6 is not unduly alarming in this sector, of course, we, being conservative, always are looking at inorganic opportunities. Hopefully we will get DTH approved this quarter. Strategically, of course, you know about Indus Infratel. Hopefully that's moving faster. And in that case, we look at other opportunities as time comes, but nothing which unduly concerns us immediately. We continue to explore opportunities for inorganic monetization.
I think to your first question, yesterday you would have seen that the approvals for the merger of Vodafone and Idea have come through. I've said this before, that India is rapidly moving towards, equal size, more or less equal size, three-player market. And that is, I think, something that is now on the cards. And I believe that, current levels of pricing, like I mentioned, are untenable. And so pricing should start lifting in in some time. I'm not a soothsayer to say exactly when, but I think.
All right, that's Mr. Gopal Vittal talking about price trends in the Indian market. Mr. Tulsin, before we let you go, actually a word on Telecom. Your sort of analysis of the fine print of Bharti Airtel. Of course, ARPUs and all are still down, but any sign of a bottom anywhere close in sight? The stock, what would your call be?
See, Surabhi, in fact, I am not happy at all with the numbers which I have seen. If you exclude the deferred tax credit, which is a non-cash item, I don't know why we should consider these results as good. Because if you really take their Indian operations, this one is showing losses on a EBIT basis. You have, though the top line has increased marginally, but that is not the solace. That's not the comforting point for the stock. And the kind of competition which we are going to see from Reliance Jio, and this is what I've been saying, that the competition is going to remain for whole of FY19. I don't think that there is any respite for Idea, even in the merged entity with Vodafone and even Bharti Airtel, because you just can't, console yourself by taking one quarter call. Because if you really take the trajectory going forward, yes, I agree that the African operations have been showing some kind of improvement, but your main market, Indian operations, is dwindling on the earning fronts. And as I said, that if you knock off the deferred tax credit, which is just a book entry non-cash item, then the losses are really seem to be quite high.
Okay, all right. Mr. Tulsian, thanks a lot for joining us. Well, Jubilant Life Sciences numbers are just going to flash for you on your screen. They've hit the exchanges right now, so we'll keep an eye out on that. for now, looking pretty good for the market. 360 points up on the Sensex, and even the Nifty is well above that 11,200 mark. Vaibhav Sanghvi, the co-CEO of Avendus Capital, joins us now to give us his views on individual stocks, on sectors, etc. Vaibhav, hi, good afternoon. Wanted your thoughts first on ITC, which is clearly the stock of the day. There seems to be a revival in the cigarette business, but does it make you confident as an investor?
No, I think, see, on an overall consumer basket is something which we are pretty keen on and positive. Having said that, in terms of the cigarette volumes which has happened, I think that's a positive, and I think markets is taking cue and probably, you know, rallying around that. Having said that, what we are more keen on is basically the other consumer staple basket, not at this point in time, but probably at some corrections, because we think that a rural story is there to stay, and there is huge amount of money flowing into the rural economy, because of which you will see momentum in rural spending, and thus consumer staples is in our favorable sector list.
Mm-hmm. By the way, it's finally happened. What was just a given. Nifty Bank also approaching, actually hitting the record high level, 27,652 is where we are on that index. So records have been broken, and how? In fact, let's pull up some of the major movers and shakers. Of course, if we're talking about today's action, then we've had wide participation from the likes of an Axis Bank. The last couple of days have been the story of a move on the corporate-facing banks, the likes of ICICI Bank, State Bank of India, and that kind of powered through the last 2 days of move as well. And most of these stocks still holding on to their gains, the morning gains. ICICI Bank after 4% yesterday, 2% up today as well. Vaibhav, that's really my next question. You know, the market's belief, the next leg of this rally is partially based on the hope that corporate lenders are finally going to see the light of the day. Are you in the camp that believes that will happen? Would you be buying these stocks?
See, definitely corporate lenders, you know, after the huge amount of pain are actually stabilizing in terms of, one, that the incremental NPA books are not coming on, two, that NCLT resolutions are pretty much in sight, three, the valuations seem to be relatively cheap to the other peers. So all in all, in an environment where risk is getting on, both globally and locally, there is some amount of interest into taking exposure toward these corporate banks. Having said that, if you look for a 2 to 3 year view, we definitely do think that larger PSU banks or probably corporate banks or corporate lenders do have a great business opportunity going forward. So we are bullish, but at least for a longer term. In the short to medium term, you know, it's pretty difficult on a quarter-to-quarter basis.
Okay, by the way, those M&M Finance numbers are looking pretty good. The net profits are better than what the street was estimating at 269 crores. It's a growth of 34% on a year-on-year basis. And I'm just reading from the press release, the income for them has gone up by 29%, coming in at 1,940 crores. That as well is higher than estimated. I think it's the internals that the street will definitely like. The disbursements have gone up by 35% for M&M Finance, crossing 10,000 crores this quarter. And the AUM growth has also been pretty solid. So it's a 21% AUM growth coming in at 58,000 odd crores. So, I mean, it's of course been a great run for the tractor industry. It has been on an upcycle. Pre-owned vehicles have sort of been on an uptrend as well. So, and M&M Finance is the leading financer for automotives and tractors. So that's why the growth, even in the commercial vehicle segment, has picked up quite a bit. In fact, the management mentions that in their press release. They say that during the quarter, growth has been higher in the pre-owned and commercial vehicle segment, and they've even gained market share in their lead products. Collection efficiencies in the first quarter has been maintained at levels higher than the previous year. So looking pretty good. Look at that spike up in the stock now, up 2.5%. Vaibhav, how are you positioned on some of these names? Doing pretty well lately, whether it's, Shriram Transport has recovered from the lows, M&M Finance, very good numbers. Would you be a buyer here?
See, this whole NBFC space, at least in this quarter, it is pretty tricky to analyze those numbers purely because of the effect of indices and the migration to indices actually. Having said that, the opportunity on the NBFC definitely is there, and especially when you are exposed to the rural side of the economy, which again we are bullish on. So if we are able to look through those kind of numbers, see the business growth, And of course, we do see the longer term business opportunity. We are keen on this space. It's just a matter of time in which areas, or sorry, it's a matter of analysis in which areas of those kind of business, whether it needs to be in retail, it needs to be in CVs, it needs to be in housing finance. Those are the areas we will carefully choose on.
Oh, I just want to point out, Vaibhav, that the numbers that you're seeing on the screen right now, these are restated numbers. They've restated their Q1, and yet we've got a solid growth on the AUM basis, on the disbursement basis. The only number that I'm looking for still, which we don't have, is gross NPA, because it was a very smart improvement in asset quality at the end of Q4 that M&M Finance had showcased. So let's just see if that asset quality picture is also continuing to be steady or perhaps even improve. But right now, that stock is still up in positive territory, and numbers from Jubilant Life also looking good. With the profit up almost 40% at the moment. Vaibhav, just to talk about, the other pockets of the market that you're liking. Right now, I think a lot of focus is coming back on mid-caps to see if the catch-up rally will actually start. A, do you think it will? And B, if yes, then what pockets of the mid-cap market would you look at?
So before answering that question, let's understand that, what has happened in the last 2 to 3 months. And as a result of both local and global conditions, and because of which how the movement of index has been in the last 2 to 3 months. We have seen extremely skewed movement in the index, whereas the broader market underperforming massively. However, given the variables which are turning around on the global side, including your stability in currencies, lesser amount of trade war fears, and China, pumping in some amount of liquidity, we are seeing risk getting back onto the markets, and because of which that rubber effect is pretty much getting in India as well, wherein the risk assets are actually being bidded up, and that's why the broadening of the market rally we saw from 11,000 to 11,250 levels, and because of which you are seeing that outperformance of mid caps and small caps. Having said that, how much this will continue, it's just a matter of time, because the moment we start seeing dollar strengthening again and rates starting to move up, we will start to see some amount of risk off as well continuing.
Okay, well, those are Jubilant Life Sciences numbers. They're looking pretty impressive. A net profit growth of almost 40%, EBITDA growth of about 30-odd%, and the stock as well is firing up now. Almost a 3.5% rally is what you're seeing in the stock. The margins are stable for Jubilant Life Sciences on a year-on-year basis. It's been a very volatile last 12 months for the stock. It had a good run. It went all the way from 600 to about, I think, 1,000 rupees, yes, and then it came off in the since the start of the year. So all over the place for Jubilant Life Sciences, but these are good numbers that you're seeing on the screen. Vaibhav, the other pocket that has done really well this quarter is cement. So whether it's ACC, Ambuja, even Heidelberg had very good numbers, and we're genuinely seeing a pickup in terms of demand. Is this a space where you have your money put, and is this a space that you would expect it to grow further? What stage of the cycle do you think we are in?
No, I think, cement keeps us, we will view as a trading opportunity rather than a long-term investment opportunity at this point in time, because over the next period of 1 year, we don't expect the prices to, or cement prices to, recover. At the same time, the last quarter, we saw only pockets of outperformance in volumes. But on overall trend basis, we didn't see, there is still pressure on margins, and going forward, if the pet coke is not being allowed to be used, it will further create some amount of pressure on the raw materials as well. So we are a bit cautious on the pricing of the cement at this point in time. We would take probably, we would generally rent it rather than own it, in terms of trading opportunities.
Okay, all right, Vaibhav, good talking to you today. Thank you very much for being with us and taking us through your view on sectors and, of course, the market.